Hey, thank you for listening to the Vegan Ambition podcast. I'm here to let you know that you can visit us on our website at theveganambition.com or on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. We post new content every single day. And now, time for the podcast. Hey, I'm Ruji, and today we're joined with
Katrina.
And I'm Ruji. Welcome to the Vegan Ambition podcast number 9. Today's main question is, what's your take on justifying eating animals with religion, such as kosher and halal? But before we start, I'd like to thank today's sponsors. I'd like to thank black beans, sunflower seeds, and of course, maple syrup. This podcast is a tool to help vegans, vegetarians, and anyone else who's interested in the vegan lifestyle. On this podcast, we will have a different guest every week, or every other week. And we're going to discuss a topic on veganism, and we will debate different viewpoints. The Vegan Ambition is a no-pressure zone and a no-hostility zone. We don't pressure our guests here, but are simply here to discuss different viewpoints. I hope you'll join us on this journey, and education is our biggest goal here. If you don't know me already, I'm Ruji, and I've been vegan for over a year now. I'm not a perfect vegan, but I'm trying to become one. Hopefully you can join me on this journey of veganism and learn something new in the process. And this is Katrina. You're a non-vegan who I hope is interested in learning a little bit about the vegan lifestyle.
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
So I'm a student in the Global Business and Digital Arts program at the University of Waterloo. I love food and eating, travel, reading, all the typical things that people like. And yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to be here.
And, okay, so can you kind of take me through what your diet is like, or like what you eat?
So that changes a lot depending where I live. Mm-hmm. If I'm eating, like, my ideal diet is basically just vegetables and like a grain. I love veggies like so much. Like, it's honestly like everybody talks about like the sad vegan diet, and I'm like, that's what I would eat, because like honestly just like roasted vegetables with like something like, and like hummus.
Is that a thing, the sad vegan diet?
Like just salad. So like just vegetables to me is like ideal.
To me, the sad vegan diet is when I grab a bag of chips at the grocery store and that's my dinner.
Okay, that's sadder.
Yeah. Okay, I've never done that. I'm just joking, but I have.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I have had there is a very unhealthy version of the vegan diet. Yeah. But I mean, I think there's an unhealthy version of every diet. It just depends who you are and what you like. So you like veggies? That's awesome.
I
veggies
love
and
vegetables.
Hummus.
Yes.
I mean, I love veggies and hummus. Don't get me wrong, it's amazing. So take me through why you like it so much.
Like vegetables?
Sure.
Because
or veggies and dip and veggies and hummus.
Because it's like fresh and it makes me happy, and they're just like so colorful and different flavors, and like, so I still eat meat, just so that's like clarified, and I still eat cheese, and I think that's a lot of because it's like a cultural thing for me.
Okay.
Sorry. But like my dad is Dutch. He grew up on a pig farm. Mm-hmm. My mom is German, which is like sausages and like all the different types of meat. But I don't know, I still like those things, but I eat them generally just less. But if it's up to me, it's going to be veggies and hanging out.
So if you were like in your ideal home life, that's what you would have basically all the time.
Yeah, but the problem is that I'm too busy for that. So like last term, for example,
okay, I
was like back and forth to Waterloo all the time, and like there were days where I'm like, I literally basically did not eat today. Let me just go to like the local coffee shop and like grab a sandwich, and I don't really care what it is. Like, I'll look for a veggie version. If they don't have it, then I choose like something with like chicken or like whatever else on it. I just want to, at that point, I'm just like, I just need something that's hopefully healthy in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. But like a lot of the time that's really hard to do. Or like you go to Tim's and it's like, okay, I know I like this one sandwich and that's what I'm gonna get.
Yeah, I actually can't get any sandwiches at Tim's.
Yeah, I thought about that. Looking at the menu, I'm like, yeah, I couldn't do this.
Yeah, what I do get for breakfast is a bagel, plain toasted, and a hash brown, and I put the hash brown in the middle of the bagel.
That sounds so bland.
It's not actually as bad as you think it is, but I'm too cheap to pay for a tomato and a lettuce leaf because they charge like 50 cents per tomato.
Really?
It's ridiculous.
Wow.
So yeah, that's my breakfast at Tim's occasionally. But it is hard. Chains are They're getting better, especially like A&W just came out with the Beyond Burger, and it's sold out apparently in all of Canada. So I haven't even tried it.
Apparently it's really good.
Yeah, I've heard it's really good too. But the thing that kind of annoys me is it's not actually vegan. Like, if you just get it without telling them that you're vegan, it's vegetarian because they put mayo on it.
Yep.
And I'm like, you couldn't have just gone that extra step, like a little bit. Like,
sounds like
just so easy.
You have to start carrying around like a vegan mayo with you and just like put it on your burger when you're there.
I'll just go grab some Vegenaise now.
Yeah, there you go.
Have you had Vegenaise?
No.
It's phenomenal. It's easily the best mayo. Period.
So I don't like mayo to begin with.
I hated mayo.
I know, and you talked about this on another episode, and I was like, like maybe I should try that instead. But then I was like, if I don't like it to begin with, and it's just like really extra calories that probably aren't that great for you, no matter what form they're in.
Yeah, that's true.
Then why add it into your diet?
Well, if you start working out and you need those extra calories, you can add some Vegenaise to your diet, and then you'll be good. You'll be in a good spot. Yeah, Katrina just showed me her leg, which has like a cast on it. She's like, clearly I cannot work out.
I'm out of commission for now.
This is an audio podcast. We have to, represent the listeners at home. We can't, just show them things.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. So why do you think like it's an extra step to go? I know you're really busy, but like there's vegans that are just as busy. I mean, I'm super busy as well. So why do you think like that extra step is kind of too far for you?
So, okay, I think that realistically in 5 years I'm gonna be vegan. Okay. Right now there's just like so many other things I'm trying to figure out about my life that I'm like, I'm not gonna add that extra layer to it right now. Like I'm very happy with eating like pretty much like I'm very happy with just eating like my veggies when I'm at like school and I cook for myself, and then I go out like not having to worry about it. But right now I'm still trying to figure out what's my career gonna be. Do I stay like physically fit? How can I just like what do I want to do, like big picture things that I'm like I don't have time for that right now, because I love vegetables. But then like the other thing is that food is a way to tell stories.
Okay. And
I wouldn't want to miss out on certain stories because I decide to be vegan. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, I've heard of some similar arguments when like people go abroad, when they go traveling and stuff. They're like, I don't want to like not eat that cultural food because it's not vegan. So that's, I mean, I see those points and I totally get it. And I think like had I been busier when I went vegan, I probably wouldn't have gone, or it would have been more of a challenge for me. When I went, it was like I was like really free. It was fine. It was no big deal. But I think with the missing out on experiences and abroad and stuff, I think that there's a lot of things that like food tells as a story, but I think that there's a different story to be heard when you look at the world through a vegan lens. Like when I went to Hong Kong, there was 40 restaurants that were vegan, and I didn't get to eat all that great all the time. I didn't get to eat there all the time. But when I did, I like had a great experience, and even those restaurants, they were already like culturally like Hong Kong. There was like dim sum restaurants that I went to that were vegan, and I was so happy to try a vegan dim sum dish because I can't get that in Canada. And for me, that was like a different way to view it. When I went, the same thing was when I went to Vietnam. First of all, I learned that Vietnam has a really big like vegan kind of culture. Like there are vegan options in most places, which was really surprising. And as well, on top of that, like I just got to like experience like traditional vegan Vietnamese cuisine. And so that's kind of the way I view it now, especially as a vegan. And I don't feel like I miss out. The only thing that I had trouble with was when my friends went to go to like non-vegan places, but that just depends on your friend group. That's a different story.
So, like, to that, I love vegan food, so I'll go to vegan restaurants when I travel, but then I can also go to, like, their traditional, like, steakhouses and everything else and see all sides of it. Like, to me, it's very much so, like, I was thinking about this a lot today. I'm like, I feel like you see food almost as, like, an ethical responsibility that you have to eat better. It's, like, where it's sort of like your battleground, for example. And then, like, other people would take, like, their work and be like, this is where I'm going to try and make like a really big positive impact.
Okay.
No?
I'm not saying no. I'm just saying, like, I think that's interesting. I agree to some respect that I am trying, obviously, in like in like a global sphere to help people transition, help people with veganism and stuff like that. But I also think that doesn't mean I'm not solely focused on that.
Yes.
And I have my other ambitions that I work on, and I have other things that I do, and so I think it's a mixed bag. I think everyone should have a mixed bag. I think if somebody focuses too much on work, for example, like, that's unhealthy, and if they don't take like a moral view of the world, that's also unhealthy. And the way I kind of will explain it the best is people who tell me they don't read the news, or people who tell me they don't participate in political situations. I think that that's like a failure, or not a failure, but I think that's like a weird way to look at it, because frankly, you are a participant of society. As a participant of society, you should play a part in many different things. So yes, you can focus entirely on work, and maybe you can focus entirely on work and your one hobby, but that doesn't mean that you should exclude certain groups of it. So I read the news every day. I focus on the political system, what's going on. I try to have my say. I try to have my word. I also work on work all the time, and I also want to make the world, the way that I view it, a better place.
Yeah. Through
the environment, through veganism, through all these different channels, and through my political standing, like the way I view the world. I'm pretty much I'm a liberal. Like, if you're listening to this podcast and you're not a liberal, I'm surprised, but I am a liberal, and that's just the way that that's the way I express myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think we're all complex, obviously, and like there's different things that we focus on, and like, I don't know. So like, I think it's hard though, because like going through these conversations, it's not like I'm saying, in the same way that I would like try vegan foods and like try to understand that culture, because that veganism has its own culture and its own like way of life.
Yes.
I want to be able to tap into like other ones too, and like really be able to like see, because there's like such like a historical context to the way that like a food is made in a certain country. Sure. And like being able to be there and experience that, and like of course there can be vegan alternatives, and if that's what's actually current in that culture right now, then that's also different to me as well. But it's about saying I want to be able to experience that in like the most authentic way possible.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, it's just the way that we view things. Like, and it's different, and it's okay to be different. This is what this whole podcast is about. It's just about kind of educating and letting people know. But yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that there's this historical presence in these countries, and again, there are people that give up going vegan when they go to these places. Yeah. And I mean, I couldn't do that, but I physically couldn't do that. It wasn't even like a question, like, and I think that depends. And you've listened to the podcast, so you know that depends on what kind of view you have of veganism. Yeah. But like, I literally couldn't. I just was like, no, I can't. Like, I'll feel bad about that. So, it's just a way. It's just different to view it. I mean, I'm just trying to encourage people to eat less meat. That's all I really want.
I mean, realistically, during the school year, I barely eat any. It's only as soon as I go home. And then I don't know what happens.
Oh, no.
It's just because it's there and already made for me. I just don't like handling it at all. Because it's...
Yeah. It was a transition at home. Like, my dad's girlfriend, like, she's the one that makes food in the house when I live at home. And I don't really live at home that much, but this summer I am. And getting to the point where she was like making vegan food, like, took a bit. Like, it was like a little complicated. Or now she makes it all the time.
Well, we have like my cousin living with us, and she's vegan, and so my mom often makes salads and then throws like feta cheese or whatever else into it. So now my mom normally has like either 2 different versions of the salad, or like puts it on the side, or like just won't put the cheese in now.
That's what my sister does. So like, my sister, I mean, this is not like hard for her, so she understands what to do. She literally just like, she makes something that's meat based, or that has like, it's like a salad, like she loves salads, and she'll throw feta in, but then she'll make one for me on the side, and she'll make sure it's vegan and stuff, which is nice. I mean, I appreciate that a lot. My brother-in-law is the same. He understands that I really don't like it when you use utensils that are not vegan and stuff, you know, like that aren't clean the way I see it. And so like he'll specifically use utensils because I asked him to, and it's nice. And it's really, really nice because I feel better about myself.
Yeah, of course.
And it means that I can eat at their place, which is, I mean, I'm there all the time, so hopefully that's
very nice.
Thing. But home is it's a challenge. I even have it I have it still all the time, where like my dad will ask me like, are you sure you don't want to like eat this meat? Or my grandma will like be like, hey, you should have some fish, and I'm just like, no. Or even my sister, like, she doesn't really view, she's okay with veganism, she doesn't like view it the way like I'm like very picky about like, I don't want to be touched. She's like, come on, don't be such a baby. And I'm like, I don't want my like me to be kind of like harming animals. Yeah. And that's just because I view it from that perspective. Like, had I not had that perspective, I would not view it the same at all. I think people who view it from a health point of view are much more lax in that sense. Yeah.
And that's where like
much more
most of the people that I know, besides you, I think, who I know who are vegan, are doing it more for like health reasons and like environmental reasons too, like not necessarily specifically animal rights, but like big world like green initiatives.
So I mean, again, I was like that before, and there was like a turning point for me, and that turning point, I think it comes for most vegans, especially when you start to like really research, or you start to like join vegan groups on Facebook. Like I joined a couple months ago, and I'm just like, there's so much content on here all the time about veganism. I'm just like, poof. Or when you visit cows and you're like, how these things are so cute. So it's just, I think it's like part of the learning curve. I think part of the learning curve is getting to the point where you view animals as being your equal. Yeah. And that's a learning thing that I want the whole world to experience, but vegans will experience it first most of the time. Katrina, do you like black beans?
Yes, I do.
You don't have to say yes.
I actually do, though.
I think that they are perfect in things like soups, burritos, tacos, and nachos. They have a hefty amount of protein, and they're super tasty. So, grab some black beans today at your local grocery store. Thanks, Black Beans, for sponsoring today's episode. Hopefully we'll get like a real sponsor one day.
Are black beans and pinto beans the same thing?
I have zero idea. They name beans differently in Canada and in the States, I think. Oh. And so when they're imported here from the States, or like when they're packaged there or whatever, they're different. So I think that there are like very similar ones.
Very interesting.
I really don't know. I'd like to get on today's question of today, which is, what is your take on justifying eating animals using religion like kosher and halal? I think there's other religions that also kind of talk about it, but essentially the idea is that it's okay to eat meat if you're eating like clean meat, like kosher or halal. They're very similar. Or God kind of tells us that it's okay to eat meat, so we should.
It's never even an argument that I thought of in the context of veganism.
I know. My friend texted me this, and he was like, hey, what do you think about this? And I was like, it's a good point, because there are certain religions that exclude meat, like Hinduism, I think. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. In India, and as well as Buddhism generally excludes meat. But they don't always exclude dairy. But that's like a religious thing. So they don't exclude dairy because dairy makes up a lot of their meals, and they don't view it the same. They don't think their thing isn't necessarily about. They don't realize that there's still killing going on when you eat dairy, right? And so, I don't know. It's not written in their manuscripts. So I guess that's how it is. But I'd love to have someone who's like religious on later. But
So my mom always talks about that, like every time there was like food restrictions built into religion, it always had like a very historical context to it. So for example, if a certain religion didn't want people eating beef, it was because a lot of the beef at that time was like poisoned or something. It was like a way to basically build it into the culture so that like from that point onwards, like people wouldn't eat that and they wouldn't be like susceptible to those diseases or sicknesses. Whether or not that's true, I have no idea, but it seems to make a lot of sense to me.
Very interesting. I've never heard that before, but possibly.
But I guess it's like a stream of logic that really just depends how religious you are too. Like, I'm not religious anymore. Not that I ever really properly was, but I mean like, but also being Catholic, like we're allowed to eat everything. So at least
what about
I think
for
so.
like Lent?
This is another thing about veganism. I have commitment issues. Like I can't commit to anything for a long period of time. Like same with like design challenges, whatever it is. So Lent is a long time. I know it's only 40 days, but I was always like, oh, I'm gonna give up TV. Didn't last for long. And then I was like, oh, I feel bad.
That's okay.
Like, I know, like, but also like, okay, just because you go to like a Catholic school or you go to a Catholic church doesn't mean that you necessarily follow everything. And I think in the same way that like when people are like vegan, not every person will follow everything in the exact same way. Like,
absolutely.
I have a friend who like identifies as vegan.
Sure.
But she has a Japanese background, so at Christmas she eats sushi with her family because she's like, okay, this is like us culturally coming together. Like her grandmother's there, everything else, and it happens like once a year. But
I feel like you would get sick from that. Like I've known some people who have gotten really sick from.
So she thought she would too. Hasn't happened yet. Then she was also in Kampala, so Uganda, this past winter, and they offered her like traditional meats, and it's extremely rude to like basically say no to food. And there were no other options at that point in time. She was like, this is either dinner or no dinner. And she accepted it.
How long has
Not
she been
sick.
vegan for?
4 years? Like multiple years. Okay. So like 3-4 years?
Interesting.
Something like that. Like, maybe since high school. 5? Yeah, something like that.
Interesting. That's surprising actually. But I mean,
I know.
Good for her, I guess. Well, good that she didn't get sick.
I think for that it was like very much so a cultural thing, and you gotta eat. Like, I think that anybody, if you're vegan and you realize there's literally only one option to eat that night, they were on an island. Like, this is like basically an extreme scenario.
The
it's
vegan
like...
extreme scenario. It's the one that everyone asks.
Then.
Yes. Veganism is about excluding animals to the point that you can.
Yeah.
And so there are situations where I could see it. I would personally really try like not to.
Yep.
But there is exclusions to the rule, and again, it's what you personally decide. So
how do you feel about it when it becomes like culturally rude? Like somebody's like welcoming you into their home, you're then like a guest there. How do you, especially if there's like a language barrier, how do you communicate that to them?
I think that's hard. I haven't been in that situation, thankfully, but I think that I would try to make sure that the host knows that I'm vegan first.
Okay.
So, like, the first thing I would do. If not, I used to be really picky, like, just, like, super picky, and I have, like, family members that are really picky. And it's just, like, you don't deny food, but you're like, oh, I'm just going to eat this instead. Like, a bowl of rice, whatever. And I've had situations, like, in Hong Kong, where literally my dinner was, like, a bowl of rice because there was nothing I could eat. And that's what it was. Like, I survived. I should do that every day, but I survived. I did it once or twice. It's just, I don't know. You have to play the situation. It really depends. It's really difficult to say. I can't, like...
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if I knew that it would, like, hurt somebody, I would be like, I'll eat it. I don't care what it is, but I'm also somebody who eats anything. Like, I'll up for trying any foods. Like, I find it really hard almost to, like, relate to those, like, contexts, because I'm like, if this person's, like, put so much work into, like, making their whole home ready for you and everything else, and then
Yeah.
like they serve you this thing and you're like, oh.
It's happened. Similar things have happened before where I've been to like family events and stuff, and people don't know that like I'm vegan or like, you know, whatever. And it depends on the. You know, I never ate it. I would always say like, oh, I'm just not gonna eat this. You know, just because like
I
just
feel like
don't
in
like
North
this.
America that's like way accepted.
It's way more accepted. I wonder what would happen if I went to Russia to visit my family. That'd be interesting.
Good luck.
So, well, what is your take on justifying eating animals? Like,
With religion?
yeah, you can take it as a non-vegan. Like, you can like choose your perspective. Do whatever you want.
It's interesting. Like, I never really thought of it as like, because to me, I've always seen it the opposite way. It's always been a restriction. It's like, oh, you can't eat all these other things, or like you can't eat like this type of meat. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. Like we need to find an alternative for you, or it's like you have to eat this specific type of meat. Because I had a lot of like Muslim friends in high school, and like I knew that we had to like get like halal meat on like pizza and whatever else.
Sure.
So I've always seen it that way, and not as like it's allowing you to eat all these other types of meat. I think that,
And I don't think it necessarily that it says that it's allowing you to all the time.
Yeah.
But there are people who advocate for that. So they say, I'm Muslim or I'm Jewish or I'm Christian or whatever, and God says I can't eat this, but I can eat this. And so, what does that mean? There's Seventh-day Adventists, for example. They're basically vegan. I think they're almost like 100% vegan.
oh,
There's a huge group of, there's this huge big religion that is vegan, more or less. And, they read the Bible differently, and they read the Old Testament differently. And so, like, how does that kind of fall in? Like, what do you, like, I don't know either. I don't know what to say. I personally view it as the Bible says, or the Old Testament says, or the whatever says, hey, you can't eat pig, and you can't eat meat that's been cut in a certain way or killed in a certain way, and you can't eat seafood, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't cut out meat. But there are advocates for that. There are people who say, well, it says so I'm going to do that.
I mean, also these scriptures were written like ages ago, but I think that most religions also say that like you shouldn't be like eating unsustainably either. Like you shouldn't be. It's not sloth. That's laziness.
I don't know.
There's like you shouldn't basically be like greedy and like taking everything. And I think the way that our culture is, especially here in North America right now, we have a food culture that is unsustainable. And I think that if you put that into the context of religion and then like you think about that whole context, then it's like, okay, so maybe I shouldn't be eating meats because it's unsustainable in the ways that we produce them.
That's a good point. I like that point. I'm going to use that from now on. I was actually watching a video today, like, one of those Facebook videos, and it was like most soy production, it's not good for the environment, generally speaking, because it's like it cuts down parts of the rainforest, it takes up a lot of land, blah blah. But then it's like, soy, 70% of the soy goes to feeding animals, and 6% goes to feeding humans. I don't know how verified that video is. That's about right. That's what I've read before. So like similar numbers. It's still like a huge proportion. And then I see people, they're like, oh, well, I would. Well, what if the whole world was vegan? Then soy production would go up. And I'm like, well, not if you're getting rid of the 70% that goes to animals. So that's sustainability, right?
Yeah.
In terms of the fact that we can sustain on a vegan diet better than we can sustain on a non-vegan diet.
Yeah. So
I think that that's really important, and I think people kind of miss the point a lot of the time where they're like, nice. Well, they're like, veganism, if everyone went vegan, it's gonna be like, this whole like mess and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, no, it would help a lot of things. It would really cut down on a lot of things.
I mean, I think there is something to be said. There's like certain people who would definitely lose their jobs. Like certain types of farmers wouldn't exist anymore. But not that I'm saying that's like a reason not to. I'm saying that there are like economic implications for everybody going vegan.
But those would evolve.
Yes.
I mean, similarly, like, just when machines were brought into farming, that industry evolved. I'm sure there were people, 70 years ago who were like, no machines. Mm-hmm. And today there are people like, don't call milk by the word milk because it's not. And that's like a law in Europe now. They can't refer to like vegan milk as milk.
Oh, vegan milk is.
They have to call it like a vegan drink or whatever.
That sort of makes sense to me, to be honest.
I mean, to me it doesn't, because the way I see it, the process is the same.
I mean,
you are technically milking an almond. You're getting the liquid out of it.
Okay, I'm definitely like seeing like milking as like udders and like something coming out of it.
Yeah,
but like
you're doing something. You're taking something out of it. You're
okay.
not. It's not like we're not like eating pieces of almond. This is like a product that comes out of the almond. It like become like the.
Well, there's like two images going through my head. Either there's like udders on an almond, or we're like smushing cows and getting the juice out of them.
I need
and like
that.
Either one is not a good image in my head. But I understand what you mean. Like it is like. It's a milky substance. Like, that is what it is. But, like, it's almost more like almond juice in a weird way. But, like, it's not...
I guess it almost...
Think about, like, mango juice. Like, how thick it is. That's sort of, like, almond milk. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's sort of, like, more like almond juice and, like... So, but the way that we consume it is like milk. So, like, I agree with you. I understand why the Europeans are going through that, though. Like, they're having this huge epidemic right now where it's like, how do we name these foods from these different regions? So, like, if Parmesan cheese isn't from the Parmesan region, then you can't name it Parmesan anymore. So then, like, all these American, like, cheese producers are like, wait, what? So, like, how do we identify this cheese as a Parmesan cheese, even though it's not made there? Yeah. So, like, I understand why the Europeans are having, like, this naming crisis, because, like, they're going through all these foods and trying to understand what the right name is for them, but I feel like that's way off topic of what we were supposed to be talking about.
That's okay. No, this is all, it's all good. I do think, though, like the industries will evolve, and I mean, there's this one company that I see all the time on Facebook, and it's my main source of
tailored ads are really good. Sorry.
Actually, I've never seen an ad for it, but I've seen like just propaganda about it. But it's this like old, like it was a dairy company who's been around for like 100 years, and like 2 years ago they converted completely to nut milk. They're like, we see what's happening. We see that people are drinking more of this, and they converted completely. Now I think they're doing great.
Well, and there's also like the whole thing that like the dairy board in Ontario is really, really strong.
Yeah.
So it convinces us that we need a lot more dairy than I think we actually need.
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate, because as like a consumer of food who really just wants to make a healthy choice, you're like sitting there like, so should I be consuming this or not? And like, if I have like cheese on pizza, is that actually really bad for me? Or is it like just not ideal?
Yeah, the whole dairy industry in Canada is like a huge mess. It's like a huge monopoly, and you know what I mean by monopoly. And it's also subsidized by the government, so we're like paying for it, for us to consume more milk so that we don't put like whatever amount of dairy farmers out of work. But like, I mean, I don't care. I'm sorry. If you're a dairy farmer, I don't care about you that much, because you're killing cows.
You see, this all hits like closer to home in the sense that like my dad's like an international like meat trader. Like,
ooh, I did not know that.
And he grew up on like a farm too. So like, I think it's a very odd relationship that like farmers who farm animals have with their animals. But like, my dad will never speak more fondly of an animal than a pig. But like, what actually happens to them at the end of the day is horrendous. I think it's just like, it was also a very different mindset going into it though, and I think it also comes a lot more from like the natural food chain, that we're supposed to eat meat in order to survive. But like that whole, we don't live in the wild anymore. So everything has to shift again.
Exactly. Exactly. Everything has to shift. And also that kind of idea of the natural food chain, when you look at it from a human perspective, it's called, like what vegans call it basically, is called speciesism. And that's the view that, these animals are below us and that we can eat them because we should eat them because we can eat them. And I mean, I don't see it that way because, again, I look at cows and their faces and I'm like, holy crap, you're so cute. How could I possibly eat you? But it's this removal, we remove our ideas from what reality is. And even farmers do that. I mean, when a farmer has a farm for years, like my favorite sanctuary, I've talked about it multiple times on this podcast, that farmer had a farm for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. For generations, for 3 generations that farm existed. And then the farmer one day, it just hit. It was like, nope, I can't kill this animal. It's too much of a pet for me. It's too much of another being for me. And I think most people, especially in the developed world, don't see that. They don't see that these animals are there. They don't see that these animals are beautiful. They don't see these animals are happy, and they don't see what really happens.
Well, because when it's on your plate, it's very removed from where it came from.
On purpose.
Yeah, but I mean also, like, it's not like they were going to bring that cow to your table. Like, that's not possible either. Like, it's not, yes, on purpose, but the economy wouldn't work any other way. Like, unless, like, no, 'cause I think it would still take too long to prepare and clean and everything else. So,
whatever, it's just, it's done so on purpose, though, also. Like, I mean, we don't, like, when we see an ad for a burger, don't always see a cow in it. And even if you do, that cow generally is, like, kind of removed, and you don't, like, notice that the cow has emotions and feelings and has ideas
cow,
and has,
it's
like,
not real.
Has, like, loves and not lusts. Has, like, loves and, like, things it enjoys.
Hey, don't put it past the cows.
It's true. I don't know. Some people might know more about that than me. I'd actually love to have your dad on the podcast. I think it'd be very interesting.
So, like, every time cause my cousin's working out with us, she's vegan, said that before, but, like, she'll, like, work out and be like, Uncle Joe, join me! And he's like, no, that's a vegan thing. And she's like, that has nothing to do with it. And he just categorizes everything along with it. Also, I'm not going to say anymore.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. It's just, I don't know, like, what was I going to say? I think people are much too removed. And it's the same thing with dairy. Like, I've literally had people tell me that cows just produce milk. And I'm like, no.
Okay, so I know you mentioned this a few times, but you talked about the cows a few times. Chickens naturally produce eggs, right? Every day?
I think so. I really don't know.
Because I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure they do, because, like, what you're eating is essentially just, like, a chicken's period, which sounds horrendous, but, like, that's what it is, because it's an unfertilized egg being excreted by the body. Like, right?
Yes. It seems like
because,
all
like,
birds lay eggs.
All birds constantly lay eggs?
Without fertilization. It's more...
Oh, but then a chicken's, like, cycle just must be, like, significantly shorter then.
Yeah, and they've been bred to be even shorter, and,
Makes sense.
Like, they're...
But, I mean, I'm, like, thinking, like, Anne of Green Gables, Canada, where she would, like, go out every 3 days and, like...
I never read the book.
I just watched the TV show. It's fantastic. If anybody wants to watch Anne on Netflix, 10 out of 10 recommend.
Nice. But, no, but, like, yeah, cows, like, literally they don't produce milk naturally. They're just like humans in that sense.
Yeah.
They literally have to have a baby, and those babies go to slaughter always.
That's so
almost
awful.
Always, like 99% of the time.
Okay, so that meat is then used for veal, though. Is it veal is young cow, right?
I think so.
Or is that...
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it's veal. Okay. I think it's it might not always be the case. So I'm sure there are places in the world, and there are factory farms that just kill those animals because it's easier.
But isn't it more profitable for them?
Not necessarily. If they have to spend if they have to spend the money like shipping it and spending the money and feeding it water and food, and if it's sick, I mean, if a cow is sick at any point, it's killed it automatically.
Yeah.
Like automatically. So that's like already like, you know. So they don't usually take the time to nurse those animals. You know. Did you know that sunflower seeds are widely considered to be a very healthy food? They are high in energy, they have lots of calories, they are rich in linoleic acid, oleic acid, and high amounts of protein. Tons of vitamin E. I actually did not know this before I read this, or made this.
Really? Vitamin E?
Mm-hmm. They have a lot of good stuff in them. So grab some sunflower seeds and mix them into your next smoothie today. I know that they will taste great. Thanks, Sunflower Seeds, for sponsoring today's podcast. So, Katrina, now comes maybe the most interesting part of the day. It's time for the taste test. Today we have... Ooh, that was loud. Tofurkey... no, not Tofurkey. I lied. Yves Veggie Turkey Vegan Slices with a new and improved recipe. They're cholesterol-free and low in fat. Now, these have been sitting around for like 30 minutes, and they also were in the fridge that was accidentally turned off. So, they're probably not as good as they could be, but we're going to try them anyway. I should maybe move the taste test earlier. Alright. Where did I open it? Are you scared? You look really
I feel like I wouldn't like this in like regular form.
Take up a piece.
So like,
yeah,
like non-vegan form.
Just pull.
Oh, that's like gummy.
You could have pulled more.
Did I pull 2 pieces? It looks
think
like
you
there's
did,
2
yeah.
pieces. Honestly, it smells great though.
It does smell like like turkey.
It smells. It is smoked, right? You said
It must be
already.
smoked. Oh, I should do that differently next time.
Where's the flavor?
Okay, it has a light flavor.
I meant like on the package.
Oh.
But like, yeah, you're right.
Turkey.
Like, it's
Veggie turkey.
yeah, but it's like still supposed to be like smoked, like forest.
Yeah,
like,
like smoked turkey.
Okay, honestly, that's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Like in all fairness, I wouldn't eat like sliced meat anyways on a sandwich just because to me it's boring.
Yeah.
Actually,
but if you eat sliced meat on a sandwich, this is the sliced meat to get.
Have you?
It's actually pretty good.
This is like cold cuts.
It is like cold cuts. Oh, here. You want a big slice?
Yeah, sure.
You want? Yeah. This is hard.
This is such
It's 2 pieces again.
weird experience.
It's not as good as the tofurkey one, I will say, but this one's more commonly available.
I almost want to switch out my dad's and see if he would notice.
Do it.
But he notices pretty much everything. Like if something's like slightly off and my mom uses like a different spice on something, he's like sitting at the dinner table like,
Yeah, but who cares?
do?
Is he gonna get mad?
Yeah. No, just grumpy. Do they have prosciutto versions? Because like that's what I feel like
Which
I would
kind?
miss. Prosciutto? It's like dry cured ham.
Oh, prosciutto. No, I don't think so. I don't think they have a prosciutto version.
Honestly, I think that would be a game changer for me. Not that I would switch because of that, but like making sandwiches and making them like nice, or even like asparagus wrapped in that. If you could cook it in the same way,
Yeah.
it's delicious.
Like vegan bacon, which is prosciutto basically.
Yeah?
They're almost the same thing. It's not as good. Most of the vegan bacon I've had has been like, this is edible, but I won't say that this is as good as this. Like, this is like... Lots of edits today. This is like almost like what I had when I was a kid. I would say the tofurkey one is better, but this is really good. And like, I'm gonna go home, put this in the sandwich like tomorrow.
I also really like the texture of this compared to regular like sandwich meats. Like it's drier, and I hate when it's like slimy. Not about it.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm very impressed.
I actually got similar ones for a podcast, but I never ended up putting them in. And they were like ham slices or something. and they were so meaty that I didn't like them. I was like
Too real.
I put them on a sandwich. I started eating them. I'm like, nope. And then I threw them out. I'm sorry, I wasted food, but I couldn't eat them. No one else would. So they were already past their due date anyway. Okay, these things don't go bad. This doesn't go bad. It takes like a month to go bad.
Doesn't that sort of freak you out?
No, best before dates are kind of like bull. Like they're just not
But,
really
like,
that real.
This is why I like vegetables. It's very clear if it's good or bad, except for like, of course, like all the pesticides and stuff that sort of scare me. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't really be eating a lot of these like alternatives. But if you're transitioning to veganism, or if you eat a lot of deli, this is better for you, 100%. There's no way that deli with all the crap that they put in deli slices is as bad for you as these vegan slices. It's on the other side, English version. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, looks pretty solid.
I mean, there's like some chemicals, but chemicals are in everything. It's not like that bad. And I think on the second podcast with Graydon, we tried tofurkey ones, and they had less ingredients than this. Less like words and stuff that were scary.
Yes, word. Oh my god, cannot speak. But yeah, no, honestly, if I was going like camping or something, I feel like I would bring these.
Nah, yeah, that's true. I brought vegan hot dogs a bunch of times. This company, Yves, camping. Oh, these are Yves, by the way. Yves veggie turkey vegan slices. And again, I think they're really good on sandwiches. I would totally put these on. I will put them on. I'm not going to throw these out. There's a whole package laying here. Take them home and eat them.
Not bad in terms of calories and stuff either.
No,
Fair
they're
amount of
healthier
sodium,
for you.
But
yeah, but I mean,
everything
deli slices.
It's not going to be better.
If you compare 1-to-1, there's no way. Like, we can even look up deli slices and compare the two nutritious things. I'm sure these will be healthier for you, 100%.
Yeah, probably.
There's no way. They add stuff to it to make it like healthy, and you can because they're making this. It's not injected with anything. They're just making it. They're just putting it in.
I mean, it's not always injected to get flavor. In all fairness, like you can like dry cure something, which means like it's just basically dried out over time with like salt on it and whatever else, which isn't good for you, but like the flavor is amazing.
But as far as I know, like for example, B12, right? B12 is a thing that's missing from a lot of diets. As far as I know, most cows are injected with B12 for their health, which then translates to us. And there's a lot of other crap that is injected into cows and other animals, like it's just, that's how it is. Okay, today's last sponsor is one that rings true to my heart and hopefully to yours.
Yes. It
is the main money-making machine in a little town called Riverdale. And it's the perfect sweetener to your pancakes or crepes. Of course, I'm talking about the national pride of Canada, maple syrup. Now, don't get that simple syrup or that fake syrup next time you go to the grocery store. Grab some true Canadian maple syrup. That's the real stuff. You have to do it. Thank you again, Maple Syrup, for sponsoring today's episode. And as a final segment, I've got a recipe for everybody. Before we get there, is there anything you'd like to say?
Maple syrup is fantastic.
Is that
roast all your vegetables in it, like actually.
Good plan. I love maple syrup. It's super yummy.
Sorry, I don't know if there's anything else you want me to say.
No, is there anything you'd like to say? Just to tell the listeners at home.
No, it's all good. Have a great evening, guys, or day.
Okay, so today's recipe comes from oshicloves.com. It's for power biscottis. You need 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed, 2 tablespoons of filtered water, 2 cups of raw shelled sunflower seeds, today's sponsor, 1 tablespoon of arrowroot starch, 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, 1/2 cup of dried cherries, cranberries, or blueberries, roughly chopped, 1/3 cup of raw pepitas, I don't know what those are, look them up, 2 tablespoons of cacao nibs, which you can not include if you want, and 1/4 cup of pure maple syrup, today's sponsor, and 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. This is a very long recipe. Get ready. Preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Line a large baking sheet with parchment paper in a small mixing bowl. Whisk together the ground flaxseed and water. Set aside for 5 minutes to thicken. Meanwhile, add the sunflower seeds to a food processor and process for 45 to 60 seconds, or until you have the coarse flour or fine meal. make sure that it's evenly processed. The texture should be flour-like. Be careful not to over-process or you'll end up with sunflower butter. Maybe yummy too. Transfer the sunflower flour to a large mixing bowl and whisk in the arrowroot and sea salt. Stir in the dried fruit, pepitas, cacao nibs, and then add the maple syrup and vanilla extract to the small mixing bowl with the flaxseed mixture and vigorously whisk to combine. Pour over the dry sunflower mixture and use a large wooden spoon to mix well for about 30 seconds. At first, it will seem like there isn't enough liquid, but keep stirring until the liquid is evenly dispersed and you will have a damp dough. Turn the dough out onto a lined baking sheet and divide it into 2 equal pieces. Use lightly wet hands to shape and compact the dough into 2 tightly packaged rectangles. Each rectangle should be approximately 4 by 6 inches or just shy of 1 inch thick. Bake for 18 to 22 minutes or until the edges are light golden brown and each rectangle feels well set, yet retains a soft indentation when gently pressed. Meanwhile, remove from the oven and cool for about 20 minutes. Meanwhile, decrease the oven temperature to 275 degrees Fahrenheit. And once the biscotti rectangles are mostly cool, use a sharp knife to cut them widthwise into 1 inch thick slices, pressing straight down and rocking the knife back and forth to slice rather than using a sawing motion. Carefully return the biscotti to the lined baking sheet, slice side down, bake for 16 to 18 minutes, then carefully flip each biscotti and bake for another 16 to 18 minutes, or until light golden brown and crisp to the touch. They will crisp as they cool, so keep that in mind. Carefully transfer the biscotti to a wire cooling rack, cool completely, stored in an airtight glass container to maintain crispness. They'll keep for up to a week. That's how you make biscotti. I'd like to thank today's sponsors, black beans, sunflower seeds, and maple syrup, Katrina, and you, the listeners, for being here with us here today. You can find Katrina on Instagram at cat_Shouten, that's SCHOUTEN, and Twitter at the same handle, KAT_SCHOUTEN. If you have a question, a suggestion, you want to be a sponsor, or you want to be on an episode, send us an email at veganambitionpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.